Kill Bill Volume 2. Somehow he knows that when he goes and takes the 5 steps, he stands up and takes 5 steps, he will then drop dead because of the move she performed on him. He says to her, "How do I look?" "Oh, you look great." This woman who's literally in the middle of murdering him, she's set in motion his death using this karate move. So he's about to stand up and take 5 steps and then drop dead. And he's there being all friendly about her. "Oh, aren't you great? You killed me. You learned your karate move and now you've killed me." He's being set up so that he takes 5 steps and then his heart stops or something. Spend the next 5 years avoiding taking those 5 steps. And then occasionally you have to use one and you realise, oh, I'm down to 4 now. Sometimes you might have to get up out of your wheelchair to stand over the toilet or something, or open a door. At some point you're going to get down to where you've only 1 step left. You'd be afraid to go asleep in case you start sleepwalking. So no, you wouldn't want that. That's undesirable. For also, dying is undesirable. So you'd be doing this to avoid dying by not taking the steps. It's probably quite impractical. That's Kill Bill. You'll have a great time watching Kill Bill now, because I've told you what happens. You won't be all stressed, wondering how it ends, wondering is everyone going to end up okay.
Into your head! IntoYourHead.ie.
The jean denim trouser. Part of its charm used to be that it had an excellent array of pockets, especially if you're one of the bigger people who wear jeans like me. Incidentally, that may never have occurred to you skinny people. Whatever clothing I get, if I get the same clothing as you, but in my size, same style of clothing, the pockets are automatically bigger. It's absolutely great. For much of my adult life, I've always had excellent large pockets. Get over the thing about having tight fit jeans to strangle your undercarriage. That's self-harm. If you're wearing tight jeans or tight anything else, that's self-harm, and you should bring yourself to your doctor about that. You say, "Doctor, I've just realised I've been involved in self-harm all my adult life. As an adolescent, I was just following peer pressure and the fashion of the day. Well, as an adult now, I seem to be still doing this, wearing tight jeans that squash me to bits. I've just realised it's self-harm. Please send me to a mental institution so I can get this dealt with." And your doctor will applaud you for that. He'd say, "Oh, that's great. You're taking a very, very, very good first step. Very good first step. Well done. That's great."
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
Go out for a walk now. Go for a 10-minute walk around your block, or however long it takes to circumnavigate your block. I don't know. If it gets to 10 minutes and you're not home yet, you might need to go for another couple of minutes. Or if it gets to 10 minutes and you find you've just passed your house, you can either keep going and then it'll be an 18-minute walk perhaps, or just turn back and then it'll be maybe a 13-minute walk, and some of it will have been a little repetitive, but most of it will have been good. That's all you can ask for in a recreational walk. It's not meant to be a recreational one though, is it? No, you're doing it because I told you to go and walk around your block for some reason. Oh yes, I was saying, if you take a walk around your block right now, look at all the problems that you see and look at everything you see, like the problems, the potholes, the noise pollution, the fact that it's about to piss from the heavens, whatever else you see, the overpriced apartments for rent that nobody can afford, the advent of some hideous modern discount German supermarket opening up across the road that looks hideous and depressing. All of those problems that you see, make a list of them and then look at them and say, how many of these can be blamed on a cat? I think you'll find there's very few. Very, 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 very few. And that's all we're saying.
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
If you're a dog, your options for listening to a personal stereo while walking are limited. You don't have pockets. So maybe he has some sort of a saddle on him with pockets on it that he wears just so he can have his personal stereo. I stopped wearing wired earphones because I kept getting them tangled up in everything. I don't wear the true wireless ones though. If you're wearing 2 wireless earphones that don't even have a wire connecting the left earphone to the right earphone, you're insane. You're an insane lunatic, or else you're a billionaire and you treat these things like disposable one-a-day contact lenses. Maybe you put them on the string, like you did with gloves. You put the piece of string up one sleeve of your coat and down the other sleeve to the other glove. I suppose you could do that with wireless earphones. And this Doug, he's wearing the saddle because he wants something to carry his Walkman in. But that leaves him open to all sorts of abuse then. Some passing kids are going to see, oh, look, there's a dog with a saddle. Will we see if we can ride him like a horse? They had that in an episode of Family Guy. It's quite an upsetting scene, I find. Peter in Family Guy forces himself onto his best friend, Brian the talking Doug, and rides him against his will like a horse. I used to record comedy shows off the long wave radio onto a cassette and then put that in my Walkman. So if I can do that, I don't see why a dog who's sophisticated enough to go around with headphones and a personal stereo and a saddle on his back that he's prepared to wear, and he's confident enough that he's able to defend himself against anyone who might want to ride him using the saddle. I'm sure he's capable of getting podcasts onto that.
IntoYourHead.ie.
And then they climb along the arm of the crane. There's one lunatic who hangs off the crane with one hand. There's clearly something wrong with him because he's not scared. Going, whoa, this is so cool. This is great. I'm going to be dead before I'm 25. Isn't this great? If your 25-year-old is going out climbing cranes at 4 o'clock in the morning, you need to do something about that. I know what you're thinking. A 25-year-old is an adult. They're not a child anymore. I'm not supervising them. But you failed to raise them properly. So you need to go back and continue raising them until they're properly done. If you're in a restaurant and they bring out your steak and it's not done properly, the chef doesn't get to say, well, I left it in for 3 minutes, and if it's 3 minutes, it's done. It doesn't stop being your responsibility after the 3 minutes are up if it's not done properly yet. You failed.
IntoYourHead.ie.
On each of the 4 bottom corners on the underside of the dog, there's a leg. Look at your coffee table. It's got 4 legs. Now, those are the equivalent of the legs of the dog. They come out on the underside on each corner, one coming out of each corner of the dog. Ignore the tail for the moment because your coffee table hobby doesn't have a tail, does it? No. The important thing is the top of the table. It's more of a flat thing. A torso on a dog would be a few inches high. So I suppose perhaps if you have a coffee table that's more box-shaped, has a table and a shelf underneath, something along those lines, that would be more appropriate to line your furniture up with the anatomy of a dog. And why are we doing that? I've forgotten. I was distracted there for a moment. I had to leave the room for a minute to try and figure out where the meowing was coming from. So it's the shape of a dog. It's just not quite the dimensions of a dog, 3-dimensionally. Because if your dog's torso was only an inch high and flat on the top and flat on the bottom, firstly, that would be some sort of weird new breed that you probably purchased somewhere, have you? You probably purchased somewhere, the same place where you get those sausage dogs or those toy dogs that the people like to get, that they put a ribbon on and they enter them into shows and say, here's our dog. We want everyone to see our dog. We didn't want to get a child and put the child into these shows where they get a 4-year-old child and they teach it to sing and wear wigs and perform and give funny answers to judges. Most parents don't want to put their children into pageants. They get a dog instead. And they don't want to put a normal dog through that. They get a dog who's being specially bred to tolerate that kind of shit. They get some sort of toy dog. It's not really a toy dog. It's actually a dog. But it's being bred to certain specifications. At least they're not breeding the dog to eat children. They're breeding the dog to look nice in pageants. So I suppose that's a slight improvement on the dog breeding tradition.
IntoYourHead.ie.
You moved to push-button phones in the 80s, then you could press hash and then the number 1. You'd hear it going beep, 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 beep. There wasn't a robotic finger reaching out and pushing the buttons on your number keypad on your phone. No, it was just doing the electronic stuff that happens in the background normally when you press those buttons. Virtual doll, I suppose. But they didn't call it that because people didn't really have an understanding of the concept of virtualness in those days. They thought everything was real and solid. Even the air was solid in those days. You take in some oxygen in your lungs and it came in the form of solid molecules of smog and smoke and crap. And you hope that in there somewhere there was some oxygen molecules. We assumed in those days even that the oxygen molecules had to be solid. We thought, if I can't feel some dust coming into my lungs, then I'm not breathing, I'm going to die. People would panic if they went for a drive up the mountains and the air was clear. They thought, I don't seem to be getting any oxygen in here. I can't feel any particles coming up through my nostrils. Get back in the car quick. Close the windows, put on the air conditioning before we die. They thought if you recorded something off the TV, it couldn't be a virtual thing that came up on an interface that says, oh, look, here's a recording. Tap the recording here with your finger to play it. No, they said that's nothing. That's just light. How can a recording just be light?
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
Anyway, these comedians, they'll set up their water thing. You see them every half hour, they'll pick up their glass. I obsess over this. I watch them with this glass that they pick up. They look like they feel very guilty about it. They think, oh Christ, I'm supposed to be performing here. I shouldn't be forcing the audience to see me taking a sip of water here. That's like making them watch me eat. It's like I'm performing on the toilet, expecting them to watch me do my ablutions while I address them. It's very rude of me. I shouldn't be doing this. I'll tell a joke and I'll measure out a joke where I know they're going to laugh for a second or two, and then while they're laughing, I'll turn my back to them and hope they don't notice that that's quite rude as well. And I'll take a sniff of the glass. I'll try and inhale a few drops of water into my nose. I'll keep my lower lip out a bit and hope to catch some moisture from that. I hope to Christ nobody notices, because I don't want people going out to the ticket office saying, no, I want a refund. This fella's drinking water when he's supposed to be working. No, it's disgusting, they say. Absolutely disgusting. He should be there drenched in sweat, dying from dehydration. He should not be drinking water. That's what they'll say.
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
Nobody signs up for these things to get dandruff or nits. They just don't. And when they get it, it's not considered a bonus. It's a bad thing. Your parent would get what they call a fine-tooth comb. It's basically a series of 20 little knives arranged in the shape of a comb. A metal comb, and they'd scrape this through your hair, scrape the scalp off you. You'd end up covered in rows and rows of parallel cuts from these things, these blades on these so-called fine-tooth combs, dragging 20 or 30 blades along your head at the same time. At least they were parallel, so they made a pattern. So it looked somewhat impressive. You got to be cool. One of the few cool things that would be tolerated in the school. You couldn't grow your hair long. That wasn't tolerated in those days. You couldn't get a tattoo. That's just a no-no. Your parents would get locked up and you'd be sent into care. But if you get your parents to scrape your head off with a fine-tooth comb, if they do it in a good pattern, they start at the front at your forehead and they comb front to back, front to back, front to back all the way around, then that would look very impressive. At least to a child. It would look impressive to me as
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
You rarely see the outside of the spaceship while you're on a mission. This mission could be going on for years and years. You could forget what the outside of your ship looks like. You could be making very important plans about where you're going to go with that spaceship, and you forget what it looks like from the outside. You'd be going, we're going to bring the spaceship over there. Now, how will that look from outside? And everyone will go, I don't know. We don't go outside for obvious reasons. There's no air. We don't really go outside. I'm sure we can put on a spacesuit if necessary. That's something that doesn't happen very often in Star Trek at all. Very, very rarely does someone put on a spacesuit and go out on the outside of the ship. It's considered very, very extravagant to make a television episode where someone goes outside into space in a spacesuit and walks along the surface of a ship that doesn't exist in real life. That's probably very expensive, so they don't do it very much. They don't do it very much at all. They don't. I suppose that's reasonable. It's not reasonable. It probably is. It probably is.
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
Not quite as metamorphosy as a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. There's no way you can recreate that effect of Mother Nature just by taking some shit up off the floor and getting rid of the wheelie bin and putting an old desk in here and putting a bed in here and making it look like a spare bedroom that you make podcasts in. No, I do not seek to compete with Mother Nature. I can never, ever, ever reproduce the work of Mother Nature. If Mother Nature were to transform this room, she would say, oh, look, that's a caterpillar. Well, transform that into a beautiful butterfly. I'll cut off 96 of its legs. But otherwise, most of the stuff I'll do will be, oh wait, is that a centipede? Does a caterpillar have 100 legs? Oh, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. That will make sense. I was wondering about that. Because if you're Mother Nature and you come along saying, I'm going to turn this centipede into a miracle of nature, I'll turn it into a butterfly, but that involved amputating 96 of its legs, that would seem like a downgrade. Maybe Mother Nature wouldn't think of it as that. Oh no, that makes sense. That's not a centipede, it's a caterpillar that gets turned into a butterfly. So no, I suppose that's reasonable.
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
A roof is a thing on the outside that's exposed to the atmosphere. That's the ceiling of the mouth. We prefer to call it the roof because firstly, we don't like to think about what's just above that. And we know that there is some region in behind our face somewhere that produces and temporarily stores and delays the expulsion of various things from your nose that seem to push themselves out at a ridiculous snail's pace. If that would just come out once a day at a particular time of the day, just like your daily ablutions in the bathroom that people like to keep regular, maybe your nose should follow the example set by your anus, I suppose. Not to be crude about it. Your nose should follow the example set by your anus. I don't think that's too much to ask. Very little is known about the ceiling of the mouth because we don't think about it very much. We don't like to. It's like when you think about death. Your mind kind of goes, no, we're not going to think about that too much. We're not going to think about our mortality too much. And I think the same thing happens when you try to think about the roof of your mouth.
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
If our whole known universe is located inside a black hole, then we're all in it together. I'm in it with you. We're all in the same boat. And whatever may happen, it's like that Billy Joel song. It's a Billy Joel song. It's not we're all in it together, but he says we'll all go down together. Don't worry, it's not vulgar. He goes, and we will all go down together. Now, I say it's not vulgar, but it's about war. And I would say war is vulgar. So maybe that's vulgar in that way, but not in the other way that you might have been imagining. Or that I'm pretending to think that you might have been imagining. No, it's not like that. No, you don't really know what a black hole is. Us mere mortals who don't spend our days in a science lab with pipettes and burettes figuring out what a black hole is. No.
Into your head! Into your head!
IntoYourHead.ie.
Literally called a landfill. They're filling up the land. They're really filling up the air space above the land with crap. Then they build houses or something on top of it. Then they wait another couple of 100 years till the houses all fall down and the people die inside them. And then they turn it into a cemetery. And then they keep that as a cemetery for maybe 500 years or until nobody cares anymore. And then they de-sanctify the cemetery and have an archaeological dig. And they go, oh, look, we found these remains in this place. That's the dinosaur. It's a strange looking dinosaur, I'll admit, because it's all basically just bones and it's not even that. If I understand correctly, a dinosaur fossil is just the negative space around the dinosaur bone. So when someone tells you I found fossils of this dinosaur, they're telling you they found the empty space around where the dinosaur's bones used to be. Is that right? Maybe it isn't, I don't know. When you go to a museum and they've rebuilt a dinosaur skeleton from scratch, they fill in the gaps with fake bones, I presume, just like on a human. They can replace your shoulder now with an artificial ball thing that goes into the socket, and quite good movement on it, as long as you still have your muscles and your blood and your flesh and your everything else around it. Now, I'm saying now, as if I'm going to have a point to make from all this. I don't have a point to make. I'm searching. I'm reaching and searching. I was trying to make some clever thing about having a 5-year cycle on farmland for the different uses every year, and then for some reason I was going to compare that to a landfill site. Say that's exactly the same. Where they grow your food is exactly the same as what they do with the dump. That's just stupid. That's a stupid point to make, isn't it? Stupid point to make.
IntoYourHead.ie.
If I'm cooking, I pull a chair up to the cooker and I sit there. I don't understand why nobody else in the world seems to want to do this. They all go on about how cooking is exhausting. They don't have time for cooking. I think half of the problem is you don't realise you can sit down while you're cooking. I drag a chair up to the cooker when I'm cooking, and I drag a chair up to the kitchen counter when I'm preparing food. I even drag a chair up to the dishwasher. Maybe that's considered dangerous. Well then, redesign kitchens. It's 2025. We've been having these modern homes exhibitions and kitchen appliances and shit since the 1950s. Nobody has brought in sitting down in the kitchen work area. They'll sit when they're sitting down to eat, but they won't sit when they're preparing food. That's just weird. Why won't you sit? Absolutely ridiculous. I used to have an old office chair that I used for this purpose because it had wheels. Remove the back of the chair, take up less space, and I'd slide around the kitchen on this. It was great. Next time I break an office chair, which I'm planning to do soon, I'm going to use the broken one in the kitchen. Sitting in the kitchen is great.
IntoYourHead.ie.
And then I'll vomit everywhere. And then next week I'll have another 10 cans and I'll vomit in less places than I did. Because I'm learning, I'm getting the hang of this. And then you learn to adjust. You adjust your quantity or adjust your consequences. You learn all about adjustment. Was there a thing called the Adjustment Bureau? I think it was. Was it some kind of science fiction movie? The Adjustment Bureau. What did they do? I don't know. Probably something along the lines of one of those weird movies that are all based on something that Philip K. Dick wrote on drugs in the 1940s. That will end up being turned into some big movie. Wasn't The Matrix one of them? I'm not sure. Definitely the thing with the future crimes. Philip K. Dick wrote that. He had all this stuff about fourth-dimensional universes and philosophy of the nature of existence. Was the Adjustment Bureau one of them? It might have been or it might not. I don't know. The best science fiction movies are all based on 3-page short stories written by weird science fiction philosophers in the 1950s. And then 50 years later, some science fiction movie fellow would come along and spend €8 billion filming Tom Cruise reenacting your 3-paragraph story, and you stretch it out to 2 hours. And it'll be great. It'll be absolutely great. Hopefully your widow and great-grandchildren get some money out of that. Or maybe you think they don't deserve it, in which case it's not really your business, you're dead.
Into
IntoYourHead.ie.
You're thinking, what if I'm donor 825 and I don't want to be used for repeated experiments involving the creation of a monster? You're literally creating a monster. I know people say figuratively, you're creating a monster with this thing. This concept, you're creating a monster. That's what you're doing. Some movie, perhaps, that's a big hit and then it becomes a franchise. They go, you've created a monster. But that's not what the people are talking about here. They're saying you're literally creating a monster with what I've donated to the sperm bank. And people understandably have an issue with that. To say, if I donate something, I want control over how it's used. Just like when I make a donation to my local charity shop, I go down with a pile of old shit that I'm throwing out, perhaps some old CDs, or perhaps some old books, or perhaps some old clothes that don't fit me anymore, or fit me a bit too well because they've become baggy and I've become baggy. You expect to have control over how those are used. Oh, wait, no, you don't, because that's ridiculous. You don't. You do not expect to have control over how your old clothes are used in the charity shop. Or partly, no, if it's stuff that you've squirted into a tube and intentionally gone and donated for the purpose of creating life, you get all weird about it. You think, no, don't create any monsters with this. I want it used to create only normal human beings, no experimentation, no creating monsters. Maybe it's a branding issue. Maybe the scientists shouldn't call it creating a monster. Perhaps they should just say perfecting life. The term monster, it carries baggage. Call it creating life and experimenting with it. Say you're creating human life or some sort of life. Can you call it human life when it's a monster? I don't know. We have humans who are monsters. Well, again, that's part of the branding problem. You don't want to tell people, I'm creating a monster, but don't worry, it's human. It's going to be a human monster. It's not going to be some big, horrible thing with teeth and, I don't know, a fire breathing dragon or something. No, don't worry. It'll be a human monster that we create with your donation that you're apparently so particular about that you need control over what species it's used to create.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Your mouth should be the safest place for anything to go through in your whole system. It should be like Intel, this room where they make the chips. If you're making a microchip in this room, it has to be very, 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 very clean. If you're assembling a microchip in this room, which you'll call a factory, but it's not like any factory I've ever heard of. It's clean and white and empty and everything's just obsessively clean. What's the word for that? Before you go in, you scrub up, you put on your scrubs, you hold out your hands, and the nurse puts on your gloves for you and then ties your gown round the back. And then you go in and you say, oh Christ, this patient hasn't even been made yet. It's just a few bits of metal. Oh, it's you to make a chip out. Is that it? Yes. The computer chip, it's the brain of the computer. It's got all these tiny little lines engraved in it or something. And it's like having a tiny chip the size of your fingernail with a motorway system on it that can carry millions and millions and millions and millions of cars around your finger. Now, your finger isn't that big, so a motorway system that would do that would only need to be maybe quarter of a mile long in total. But it's running inside a phone or something, so that's quite a feat, I suppose. Quite a feat. Sterile, that's the word I was trying to think of. It has to be sterile. This place where they make the chips, it has to be absolutely sterile, like a baby's milk bottle.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Those of us who've worked in offices, non-self-employed, if we go into the toilet cubicle in the day and try to spend as much time in there as possible, that would be considered irresponsible and unwork ethic-like. If we went in there and brought a file with us as well, that would be considered even worse. And that's why we wouldn't do it. But you're doing that at home and you think because you're self-employed and you're your own boss, you think you're being great. No, you're not. You're being disgusting. non-self-employed workers in an office block, we go into toilets. Well, I'm not employed anymore, but when I was, I would incorporate my toiletry routine into my day. Spend some time in the cubicle. You wouldn't bring files in there. Someone would quite rightly say, "What in the name of Christ are you bringing customers' files into the toilets for?" No, you wouldn't do that.
IntoYourHead.ie.
They hear someone saying kids and say, "Oh, you're talking about kids. You're interested in baby goats. Is that right?" Well, so what if they are interested in baby goats? So what? Nothing wrong with baby goats. Nothing wrong with them at all. For one thing, a baby goat has an iron constitution, I assume, because goats are known for their ability to eat anything. They'll eat any old junk you put in front of them. It doesn't even have to be food. You can put a tree, an old iron gate, and a few bricks in a bowl or a trough for your herd of baby goats, and they'll eat that. Or maybe they don't do that until they're grown up goats. I don't know. But I presume the baby goats are on their way to having an iron constitution like that. You can feed them anything. So there'd be nothing wrong with having baby goats. And they are children, of course. Baby goats are as much children as any other species' offspring. So you're going to be snobbish about it and say, "No, I don't want my children referred to as kids." Don't be so weird about that. It's perfectly fine to use words that mean one thing and also mean another thing. You sound ridiculous. "Oh, how are my kids?" you ask. My kids are great. They're out in the field there. They're out in the field suckling off their mother. They're learning to eat bits of metal off the ground. The only way to deal with someone like that is to then report them to the animal abuse people. I don't want to do that because you're just doing it to make a point. You don't want to do that. They probably want to do the same to you every time you refer to your children as kids because they get so mad about it. Say, "That fella's sending his goats to school and then bringing them to the cinema and strapping them into the back of the car like they're children. I'm going to report that to the animal abuse team." No, you shouldn't do that either. The animal welfare people are not there to help you make some stupid point by making an insincere complaint just to make a point to these people about their use of terminology. So don't waste your time with that either. You may need them for something real someday, so don't do that.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Perhaps I could wake myself up a couple of times during the night and have a few sips of energy drink and coffee that I keep beside the bed and then go back to sleep each time. Would that work, maybe? I wouldn't want to be setting an alarm and waking myself up every hour to consume these beverages. But what I could do is drink so much water or milk when I'm going to bed that I naturally wake up for a piss several times during the night. And each time I wake up, I could drink half a cup of coffee, maybe iced coffee or energy drinks, and they could start digesting and they'd be ready for when I am ready to officially get up. And then I could start my broadcast day a lot earlier than I do. But I don't think I'd want to do that.
IntoYourHead.ie.
No, this is just the beginning of the end. This is like when you retire, whenever people retire nowadays. You don't say, "Oh, I'm finished now. This is the end. I'll climb into my grave. Please nail the lid on. Make sure I'm dead. I don't feel dead. Maybe I should die first." Well, yes, that's because you've gone too early. No, it's not the end. It's the beginning of a new stage of your life. Anyway, suffice to say, we're approaching the end of the programme. It's the equivalent of you now being in your late 70s. Perhaps you've developed whatever disease or condition is finally going to take you from us. Perhaps you're doing very well. Perhaps you feel like a whole new person with a whole new lease of life. Now that you don't have to get up out of bed in the morning, you're not tired anymore. You just sit there on your bed and you think, "My legs don't even hurt anymore because I don't use them." But who's going to answer their door? I knew someone who got Meals on Wheels. They tell you, you need to get a box in the porch so the ants don't get at it if you're not at the door. You're sitting there relaxing, you're thinking, "Oh, it's 12 noon, I'll get up and get my dinner in an hour or two. It's in the porch. Don't leave it too long because the ants will get it." No, go out and get your little Meals on Wheels dinner You bring it in. You can't put it in the microwave. It's in a foil tray. You have to transfer it onto a plate and then you heat it up. And then you go, what do I do with the foil tray? I suppose I could wash it and use it next time I'm actually cooking something, which you will be doing because Meals on Wheels only comes 2 days a week in many areas. It's all run by volunteers. So if you're able to cook your own shit, you're going to feel enormous guilt every time you accept a delivery from those volunteers because you're well able to cook. Maybe you're rich, just buy a delivery from a commercial food delivery place. A pizza every day for breakfast. Well, you'd have to live in a city for that. You city dwellers think that anywhere you live, if you have money, you can get pizza for breakfast. That's not the case. A lot of little towns, at least on a weekday, there's nowhere you can get a pizza delivered before 3 p.m. And they're not going to deliver you a bowl of cereal in the morning. No, that's bollocks. That's not what the real world is like. If you live in a city centre, you're not living in the real world. You've probably never seen a hedgehog. Probably never been for a nature walk other than in that park with the ducks. You probably think there's duck tours and swan boats through every stream in the country. No. You're a very, very unrealistic view of the world if you live in a city centre, I can tell you. Very, very unrealistic. Anyway, I think that's the end of the programme. Good morning.
IntoYourHead.ie